ever had a moment where you just felt unstoppable? For me, it happens at these trails near my house, and they're built on an old railway system, so mostly they're very wide and flat. But my favorite is this hidden trail that hugs this beautiful river. And there's this one spot where the sun is always shining through, making everything sparkle. The water sparkling, the dew on the leaves sparkles, even the rocks in the riverbed seem to sparkle. My body lights up and I am in disbelief every time. I feel strong. And in that moment, I feel unstoppable. It's the best, but also very different than life years before. There was this one day when I was in my office, downtown San Francisco, 3rd floor, when, for the first time in my life, I felt an earthquake. And I remember the building shaking, and I grabbed onto the table, and I thought something might fall on me, and I turned to my team and said, "Oh my God, you guys, an earthquake." But they looked puzzled. One of them said, "What are you talking about?" It turns out there was no earthquake. It was me having a panic attack. My body was shaking, my heart was beating so fast I thought I was going to fall over. And I realized this is not the building falling apart. This was me falling apart. And my team, they just stared at me. And I wanted an excuse, but there wasn't one. Somebody finally said, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm thinking and I'm realizing that everything was wrong with me. I thought I had done everything right. My life looked great on paper, but my brain was tormenting me with these chronic negative thoughts. I don't like my job. I don't feel good. I don't know what to do. And it wasn't long before my mother sent me a YouTube video, an inspirational YouTube video. I was not impressed at the time, but I was curious and I watched it. And something clicked because in that moment, my obsession for inspirational YouTube videos was born. I watched 1,000 videos, and what I realized was that the first thing contributing to self-sabotage was the statement, "I don't know." Saying "I don't know" energetically locks us into not knowing. We cannot know while we believe we don't know at the same time. What I learned is that when we think a thought, our brain creates a thought pathway. And the more we think that thought, the wider the thought pathway becomes, making it easier and easier to rethink that thought. But if we were to choose a new thought that felt good and was believable, we could create a new thought pathway that leads to thinking and acting differently. Remember the rail trails I told you about? Nobody was ever on that amazing hidden trail with me. Everybody was always up on the flat, well-known trail. Now, if I showed up to the trails and wanted to get down to the river and there was no trail, I would need to take out a machete. I would need to hack out the trees and the roots. It would be a lot of work and it would still be difficult to get down there. But the more I would use the trail over and over again, the easier it would be to show up and get down to the river. The thoughts we have about our life are like the rail trail. If we don't like the trail or our life, we can create a new thought pathway and practice it so it becomes wider than the original negative one. And we do this by becoming aware of the chronic negative things we think and intentionally shifting them to more positive thoughts, like literally rewriting them and practicing them to widen the pathway. This leads to feeling better, which leads to thinking better, which leads to acting in new inspired ways, which results in new opportunities in our life. And as we feel better, our energy becomes magnetic. We start attracting new things to our lives. It is so good. The bigger idea here is that like energy attracts like energy. You've probably heard this before. It's not hard to understand. But there's a big difference between understanding this stuff and living this stuff. You can't just go around saying a bunch of super positive things that you don't believe. Our brain calls our BS, and that activates doubt, which is not helpful. The key is that wherever we are, we gently micro-shift our way towards positivity. Like we can literally rewrite what we think and say just a little bit, like 5 or 10% better, so our bodies can accept the new narrative. And when we do this, we can feel it in our bodies. We can breathe deeper. We can feel the possibility. And then we're ready to rewrite up again, achieving more positivity than we could have in the beginning. And this feels good in our body. And then we continue to rewrite, and we continue to wiggle in emotionally to who we really are. Powerful lovers, powerful creators who feel fulfilled in their expansion. An example, I used to say all the time, I want a business, but I don't know what. Said it for years. And then I decided intentionally to switch it and say, I want a business, and I'm curious what that might be. This led me to starting a business, and I grew it for over 10 years. But real success didn't come until after I became obsessed with catching my brain worrying and shifting the narrative. I've been personally at this for over 12 years and been coaching for 8. So how about we try it out right now? I'd like to invite you to think about something in your life that you just don't know what to do about. This is likely one of the hardest things in your life right now. Something to do with your body, your kids, your partner, your business, money. And just for a moment, feel the heaviness of not knowing what to do. And I invite you now to say, but I am curious. I'm curious what to do. I'm curious what to say. I'm curious what a good path forward might look like. Can you feel that? When we reach for better feeling thoughts and feelings and act out of inspiration, we can truly be empowered, truly be unstoppable. And remember, when we can change how we feel without anything else changing, everything can then change.